money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words. I done popped the Molly and I think it's be my third.
What is going on, Degeneration? Kenny Kim here, bringing you another Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast this week for the 3M Open. As usual, I'm here with everybody's favorite Canadian, Tyler Tamboline. Tyler, what is up, my friend?
We're back. Another major in the books, Kenny, the final one of the season. We'll talk about Brian Harman. We'll talk about the win at Hoylake. Before we get into it, I want to remind everyone very quickly, this show is brought to you and presented by prizepicks.com. If you haven't yet done so, now is the time. Hop on over to prizepicks.com. Use promo code MMN. Get yourself a 100% deposit bonus up to your first $100. Kenny, Triple H, Hunter, Hoylake, Harman came through, got the job done. Everyone's calling it boring, but we got to talk about X and Degenerate X today because you want to follow me, x.com. You can follow me at Totag and Tambo. We don't have Twitter anymore. They've taken that away from us, but we can hop into the Open, man. What'd you think? Everyone's talking about boring Brian and whatever. And then the opposite spectrum is, well, the guy couldn't miss a putt all weekend, literally. And so that is a spectacle. If it was a guy that was 6 foot or taller, maybe they'd say, or a better superstar, maybe they'd say, was it heightism? Was it hunterism? What was going on over there making fun of Brian Harman all week, Kenny? What's going on?
I mean, think about it, was an amazing performance by Brian Harman. What he did was incredible. Now, any golfer that wins a tournament by 6 strokes, I mean, there's not going to be any drama, at the end. And that's what everyone's looking for. I mean, like all my friends who are casual golf fans, they were hitting me up like, this is so boring. It's so boring. Well, yeah, when someone's whooping that ass by that much, it's going to be boring, but you have to respect what Brian Harman did because it was pretty fucking incredible. I mean, first off, the course, basically, like, there was a lot of driver being played, but people weren't playing their driver. They hit it in the middle of the fairway. They were like, all right, let me miss left. If I hit it into the middle of the fairway, cool, but I'm hitting it in the middle of the fairway with a draw, and hopefully it's enough draw where it goes around the bunker and goes into the rough that we had. And hopefully I get a lucky break. I mean, that rough, there were a lot of easy patches where you can just hit out of that rough and not be like in no man's land, couldn't do anything. So, I mean, I took a little bit of the strategy out, I thought, of the event. But what Brian Harman did was a little different. He hit his driver every hole he hit his driver. Okay. And other guys were laying up the 3 woods, 5 woods, driving irons, while he went ahead and hit his driver 290 every single time he went out there and onto the tee box on a par 4 and a par 5. What that did was he was probably like one of the inside the top half of, longest amount of drives total throughout the round. Throughout the 4 days, even though he would be in the bottom half. Like if you look at his driving distance stat, it's 142nd on tour. All drives, if you count all drives, because driving distance only counts about 2 to 3 holes a course, an event, because they expect everyone to be hitting driver on that course, on that hole. So they measure the driving distance just for those 2 or 3 holes, and that's how they get the driving distance stat. Okay. Now, total driving yardage. I might have said it wrong, but there is that stat as well. He's like 80th. He's like right in the middle because he uses his driver so much, and that was such a big advantage, being able to hit his driver 290, 300 yards every single time and be in the fairway. That, along with his putting, of course, is the way he won. He putted. I mean, he gained almost 12 strokes putting. He beat Scheffler by 19 strokes putting. He gained 19 strokes on Scotty Scheffler putting during this event, almost 20 strokes. And of course, Scheffler went ahead, finished third, tee to green once again. But what he did was remarkable because there's only been like 5 guys who have won the Open Championship by 6 or more in the last 65 years. Their names are Arnold Palmer, Johnny Miller, Tiger Woods, and then Shane Lowry and Louis Oosthuizen. So those are the 5. It doesn't happen that often. The way to dominate an event like that and to do it with no support. Like, okay, if an American is up against Fleetwood pair it up in the UK, you're going to get some shit talk to them. It's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? It's going to happen. But he had like no family. Like his kids weren't there. His wife wasn't there. His parents went on vacation to go hunt for lobsters for this weekend instead of, going to the Open Championship. That's probably how much faith they thought Brian was going to win the event. They went lobster hunting instead of going to the Open Championship to watch their son. Okay. He had nobody. All right. And he's out there. I loved when he said on Saturday, when the guy said, he doesn't have the stones to pull it off. He's like, I'm going to show this motherfucker. I was rooting against him basically the whole time. I had him in DFS, right? But I mean, I'm going to see one of the big dogs in or see one of my guys when I had a Hovland ticket. I bet Struck Alive later on. Now, but as the tournament went on, and you heard about all the people talking shit about him in the stands, and then you have the British press trying to make him into this America gun crazy, like a lot of people in the United States. I mean, but they were trying to make him that person when all he does is bow hunt geese and turkeys and deer. You know what I'm saying? He's not going out there doing trophy hunting, killing elephants and giraffes and lions and shit. I mean, I can understand people getting angry about that, but this motherfucker hunts to eat. Now, I did talk to some people in the UK, and they said that hunting is like a foreign language to them. They don't understand why people would hunt. And I don't know if it has something to do with usually the only people that hunt in the UK is the royals, right? They go on their little hunting trips, you know what I'm saying? And maybe that's why it has a bad rap, it's a bougie type thing that people do in the UK. I don't know. You drop a comment. If you're from across the pond, I want to hear your take on why hunting is such a big deal over there and why people don't like it. But in America, there are certain parts of the population where the only meat that they're going to eat the whole year is what they hunt. Now, granted, it's more of the poor parts of the United States, but there's still people like that, plenty of people like that, who literally survive based on hunting. It's not like it was 100 years ago, but there's still people out there, and a lot of people go out there to hunt. I mean, there's holidays. I used to live in Roanoke, Virginia, when the hunting season started. People took off school. There were people that took off work. It was a holiday. It was a big fucking deal. And so I guess that's why. But the way the British press was antagonizing about it, it just pissed me off. And so by the back nine, I was full on board. I wanted to see fucking Harmon whoop everybody's fucking ass, and he did. The guy is okay, it's cliche by now, but he's a fucking bulldog. Okay, he goes out there. You saw it, no emotion, straight face, going out there, doing his job. One of the most impressive performances I've seen in the major in a long time, maybe since Bryson won Wingfoot. It's super impressive. What'd you think of Brian Harmon?
Yeah, I thought that was well said. A lot of the stuff, at least, especially with the game plan of what he put together there. I think the thing is, even when it's gonna, no matter who it was, I know people say if it was Rory or it was Rahm doing that, they would say it was magical and blah, blah, blah. And they've just done this incredible feat, blah, blah, blah. People are still saying that about Brian Harmon. There's certain sides to it. There's other sides that are saying what I believe is that you can call it boring and still recognize that what he did was magnificent. That's how I see it. It was definitely boring because it was just him. There was not much for him to do. It's tough for chasers in that weather, no matter what they do. No one was going out yesterday and going to throw up, another 63 like Rahm had on Saturday, which was crazy. So you just weren't going to see that. I don't think he was going to make enough mistakes. He would have had to really mess up. It just didn't seem that way, especially after he corrected it pretty early. And once you saw those putts start to drop again, you were like, okay, it's just going to be over. And that's just the way it is. When we had Troon last time, Troon next year, by the way, is where we're going. But last time at Troon, it was Stenson and Phil down to the wire. So you had both guys. So even though they pulled away and there was a weather angle that week and everything that had happened where you were like, damn, this kind of sucks, because it didn't suck because you had two guys going at it, an American, very popular, and a European, very popular, going at each other the whole way. And it was awesome because making putts off the green, chipping it in, doing all this stuff that made it exciting. That's the whole point here. It doesn't have, you can say that it was boring or that it wasn't exciting and still call what he did surgical on the course, and the ability to do that with a putter is insane. I think he said it best in the interview afterwards, which they continued, by the way, to ask him hunting questions when it was really, he literally had just won the Open. I don't know which was more offside. Asking Cam Smith a very relevant question about Liv last year when he won. It was like, yes, it maybe wasn't the time, but Cam Smith has come out and said since, I just didn't want to answer it. The guy probably was asking a good question. It was very relevant. It made sense to the timing. It didn't make sense maybe to the timing that he just won, but it made sense to the timing in golf, the world of golf. This has nothing to do with it. The man just won the Open. He didn't have to hunt anyone down. They couldn't hunt him down. And in the end, all he wanted to talk about was that. And he's had to tell the guy, like, he said something like hilarious. That's what I loved about Harman. He's so himself. And in the interview, he's like, no, I use a bow, not a rifle. And they're like, oh, okay, well, what's your distance you can get from? He's like, oh, you wouldn't want to get in front of me from 40 yards. I can tell you that much. He was kind of getting a little pissed off with it, but he still called the guy. I didn't say I'm going to shoot you with my bow. But he was like, you wouldn't want to step in front of me from 40 yards. Let's say that. But that was awesome. The tenacity, just everything you have to do, the grit to go out and get the job done. We love that stuff. I love that stuff. I thought that was great. Other than that, I think there was at least one other storyline, Kenny. I want to get your take on this one because the hunting factor, you talked through it. It is what it is. In Canada, people hunt. They get their weight for hunting season. It's tradition. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, whatever. People that like to hunt or eat game or do whatever, they get their tag. They're allowed to go out and shoot a certain amount of whatever. And once they're done, that's their season. But sometimes they'll hang out. Like they'll go on a couple hunting trips and they may not take that long range shot. And just because to get it now, because maybe I want to go away from the wife and kids for another weekend, up ahead here. So I'll wait. Maybe I'll get a better shot. Sometimes they get nothing. It's the game, the sport of it, whatever it might be. And then to get that meat, that then is a process, you go back and put it together and do all that. But is
that why you're wearing the camo today? Are you pro hunter with the camo?
Pro hunter today, yeah.
Pro hunter.
I'm still loving what we tipped off the top. Hunter Hoylake Harman of the Fantasy Golf Degeneration X on X Day. Wow, this is setting up for a perfect title when we get off of here. But just in general, one more thing I did want to talk about, then you can open it to whatever you want. The Rory factor. Rory your boy Brandel, which I like him too. He takes so much flack. I know you joked a couple weeks ago on Twitter, like the guy's the nicest guy, all that. I get it. And it wasn't
a joke. He was.
Oh, I know.
Super
I
nice.
meant, sorry, not a joke, but you posted that you'd been with him. He's a very nice guy. Everyone says this.
I sat with him for an hour.
He has to have his takes on the Golf Channel, and I get it. And he even was backtracking some because he was sitting next to Brad Faxon yesterday, who works with Rory, and was like, yeah, you're not going to say that about him because he's like, his physical game is peaked. He's passed. And he was like, Brad Faxon was like, what? The guy's ripped. Like, the guy's doing fine. He pounds it out there more than anybody. Like, and he's straight with it. He's like, it is what it is. But the take was basically, it sounded like basically people are making out that Rory's not going to win more majors. And this was it. Like, I don't know why.
I think what Brandon was talking about was he doesn't have that much time left, which is a fact. He's 36 years old. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he doesn't have, I don't think he has another 10 years of majors to wait to win one.
He's 34.
Still, I mean, the prime now for golfers is a lot younger. It used to be your 30s was your prime as a golfer. It's not anymore. Now Rory keeps himself healthy. He keeps his body in shape. He doesn't get injured too often. So, maybe he has a few. Of course, he has a few more years left of his prime. But at some point in time, age is going to catch up with him. And it's going to be a lot more difficult for him to go out and win these majors. It's been 10 years. I think he has another one in him, but it's going to be a lot tougher the older he gets, and he's running out of time.
Yeah, golf is hard. I think that's what people have to remember. But I guess there was some sentiment too around this statement is that after the round, he basically said, they were like an interviewer asked him and said, is it just negative people like me, the interviewer said about himself, that think like this, that it's been 10 years, or are you good with it and that's not how you think about it and you just go on with your ways? And he literally answered it and said, no, he said, I don't think about it like that at all. He said, I think about going and winning my next FedEx Cup, my next Ryder Cup, my next race to Dubai. And then people give him shit for that. But it's like, I think that is, and I'm not even a Rory stan. I never talk good about this guy, never stick up for him, nothing. I just think it was funny, like the instant backlash. The guy's been crushing it in majors. There was a tweet out today, an X, whatever the hell you want to call it.
So you don't think he deserves any backlash for not winning a major in 10 years?
He does that. I just don't think. I think it's all piling up for one time. What else can he do right now? And like yesterday, he didn't choke it away or something. He had no chance. Like he just didn't get there. Again, there's only 4 majors on the year. The guy literally just won the Scottish Open last week. Again, don't compare it to majors. I'm saying he's playing good golf. You just don't know when your hits are going to come. And I think the mindset needs to be what he has. You need to wipe the dust off and say it's another top 10, and I move on. It's all a legacy thing anyway. So many people have 0 majors and will never, ever get one in their life. And that's just the way it is. There was a tweet out today. I think Kyle Porter posted it, compiling Data Golf's information, basically saying like X wins versus what they actually won. It kind of made a lot of sense. Rory almost balanced out even. Brooks has a little bit overachieved because he's won more majors than maybe he could have or should have. But again, comes down to a little bit of luck and variance as well in these cases. And people always want to get on, he can't close and all this. What if Rory got lucky in some of his earlier majors? Maybe you're not supposed to win them that young. Maybe you're not, those things, bounces went his way versus now. And I'm not sticking up for him about the 10-year thing. I'm saying people are announcing him as almost as if he's dead when he's got like 8 top 10s or something, or 7 top 10s in his last whatever.
Oh, he's averaged almost 60% top 10 rate at majors since his last major win, which is insane. It's incredible.
And the Data Golf information shows he's still closed as many as he's supposed to.
Okay, I understand that. I understand it. But do you think that, if he does not win another major, is his career a disappointment?
Does it affect his legacy? Yes, on the pedestal of everybody else. But in the meantime, what we said about when this happened before, he goes and wins the Players. And people you're not getting huge credit for that anymore. But I'm saying he didn't win a major.
Because majors are what people judge people on,
Sure. But
and that's not wrong. That's not wrong. I don't think that's wrong either.
Yeah.
The guy hasn't won a major in 10 years. He won 4 in a span of 3. Okay, and everyone thought he should have.
He's won a lot more than most people can do in their whole career. Would you rather have Brooks' career or Rory's career then? I'd rather have Brooks. Yeah,
give me 5 majors.
Yeah, I guess that's how you look at it. I bet you Rory wouldn't trade his career for Brooks's.
I don't know.
I wouldn't. If I'm Rory, I want to answer this if I'm in Rory's shoes, not me, because we don't even play golf. My point is, if I'm Rory, I don't trade my career for Brooks's just because the major caveat that he has. I first of all know that I'm right there anyway. I know that I'm 1 away from winning the wraparound or whatever, and then on top of it, the career Grand Slam, and then on top of it, he feels fine. At 34, he answered it like that, and he said, "Look, man," he basically said the truth. And I think the reason I take it away is because a lot of people that watch this podcast also play DFS or bet or gamble, whatever they do that we want to relate it to. And for me, playing DFS full time, I'm looking at it like it's the same way for me. If I want to win the Millie Maker last week, there's only 4 all season long. If I don't win the Millie Maker, I'm still going to I'm going to try to get the 100K scores, the 200K score. I'm still going to try and get to the live final, win the championship there. There's other stuff. And those you can call the live finals majors too. So we get a few more majors throughout the sports. But I guess his point was, if he win, what happened? So he just won the Scottish Open. He wins the FedEx Cup. They win the Ryder Cup. And then everyone's still going to say, yeah, but he hasn't won a major in 10 years. Go ahead is what he's saying. I hear where you're coming from. I hear where others are. I think he's saying, go ahead and say that. I'm still racking up shit, and I still am who I am at 34. It is what it is. What else?
He's had an excellent career, but it's going to be a mark on him if he doesn't win another major. If he won 4 majors by 24 years old.
He's not done, though. He's not done.
I'm just saying if he does not win another major, it's going to be a humongous disappointment. I think his career will be a disappointment.
Yeah,
for winning 4 majors.
I think he is still disappointed in himself. He wants to close more of those majors. No shit. He's an ultimate ultra competitor at the highest level, biggest name in the game, that sort of thing since Tiger, all those factors. But I'm just saying the mentality and what the original point was, without moving it too far, was saying people acting like he's done because he didn't win another chance.
He's not done. He's got chances.
It's just the last major.
I think he'll win another major.
Yeah, he'll be right back in the mix at Augusta.
Oh, yeah. I think he'll win another major. Oh, yeah. People are saying, I didn't hear people saying he's done. I think just people, maybe you saw that. I didn't see that.
The sentiment seems to be not that he can't ever win another one. He's literally 34 and still playing great. It's just they keep tacking it on because it's just another year that ends without Rory with a major. That's why I brought it up, and it's fair from that perspective. The only reason I'm sticking up or saying a little bit on it is that I just thought it was a bit much. Some of the angles with Brandel, the conversations around what else is he supposed to say? He can't go back and try and win the Open again. It's over. You're interviewing after 72 holes. He has to turn his mind to what's in front of him now to add more to his legacy as he can, to then stay in form to come back in April and try again at the Masters when the next major comes around. That's literally all the guy can do is keep moving forward.
Yeah, of course, yes, and he's going to do it. He's going to be in contention again. I think he'll win another major. But the people that are saying if he doesn't win another major, that his career is not as good as what it should have been, I think they're 100% correct.
Yeah, I think that would be true. I just think he has a lot more time than people are giving.
Oh yeah, I think he does too.
That's all.
I think he's probably got another 5 to 10 years where he could be a force and still compete and win another major. I do. So there's still plenty of time for him. I see your point on that. But if he doesn't get it done, it's a discipline. There's no doubt in my mind. A couple of other things before we move on. But going back to Harman, I thought the most important stat that Harman had was he had 6 bogeys throughout the entire round. He had 4 birdies on the next hole on 4 of those bogeys.
Yeah. Huge
bounce back. And did you hear the stories about Brian Harman? The first one about Fowler, you talked about last week, where he almost fought Fowler in a college match because Fowler left the green in a head-to-head and didn't put the flag back in.
It was in the match play of the tournament they played. And Fowler just moved on and disrespected him. I don't think he kicked his ass. He kicked his ass on the course.
No. I meant like he wanted to whoop his ass, like mentally. He didn't do it, but yeah. And so I thought that was a good story. But the story about how he got his nickname in college might have been the most hilarious thing I think I've ever heard in my life. I mean, I don't know if you heard this, but like I guess it was him, Brendan Todd. Brendan Todd, Swafford, all those guys were on Georgia. Henley. All those guys were Georgia guys, and they were driving a big van to their match, and like there was this big SUV just riding their ass on like a one lane road. The SUV finally just passed them, and a couple of miles ahead, they stopped at the gas station. And they saw the SUV, and so I guess the guy steps out of the SUV and he's like a humongous, like 6'6", 300-pound, bald-headed, scary-looking guy. And Brian Harman steps out and just starts grilling him, and then the guy says, "What are you looking at, cockbite?" Yeah. And so everybody called him Cockbite for the rest of the time he was in college. I think that's a great nickname. I'm going to be calling Brian Harman Cockbite from now on because it's fucking hilarious. But yeah, the Open, it is what it is. We talked about Rory. Scheffler did his thing. Rahm, again, faded on Sunday. Hovland faded on Sunday. Fleet, Jesus, faded on Sunday. And then you saw the guys who came up. Tom Kim getting back to it. Wyndham next week. The one worry I have, of course, is didn't he like sprain a ligament? Didn't he pull like a Dustin Johnson?
It's like a grade 1 tear or something.
Yeah,
like
he
it
slipped.
Doesn't sound good, but he played amazing with it.
He played fine. I'm just a little worried about that for the FedEx Cup playoffs. And then, like I said, other guys who I thought played well. Straka was amazing. The Euros that all finished top 10. Matthew Jordan, who was the club member who finished 11th. I thought Hideki really impressed me. I thought Sung J M really impressed me. Anything else before we move on from the Open Championship?
The John Deere Classic. Did you see that tweet I posted out? Because that's actually crazy. Spieth wins the John Deere Classic, goes on to win the Open eventually. Zach Johnson goes on to win it. Brian Harman now goes on to win it. And this year's John Deere Classic winner, Sepp Straka, right behind him, second place this year. So maybe keep that in mind. There's your new narrative, Kenny, is you gotta win the John Deere Classic to win the Open.
It used to be the week before. And they take that big-ass jet across the pond to get that shit done. All right. So, Listener League for this past week, I think we filled it.
We got very close. I think we came up. Yeah, I think we filled it.
Hold on. Let me look.
Check and see. If not, it was like 2461 of 2,500. I feel like that's what it was.
24. So we were 40 short. But still pretty solid work. To get that, because it wasn't looking good for a while. We really made a push at the end, and thank you guys for joining.
Yes.
Make sure you join this week's Listener League. We got it up yet, Tambo?
Yeah, we got it up this week. Thanks to everyone for last week for that final push, to Kenny's point, not just for everyone that joined, but to reiterate quickly, just so everybody knows, we don't have rake free like Mayo, but this is reduced rake, and it's a $5 3 max. It literally should be the second tournament you join every week after Mayo's, and the point is Mayo's is $15 3 max. If it's outside of your bankroll, or instead of putting one in that, you want to join this one for same $15, you can max this one. Why would you not be joining a tournament with less rake? That's kind of the name of the game when you're playing DFS. So if that was misunderstood or not understood or explained properly, you should be joining this for that reason. You don't get any secret benefits if you join our group. What happens is we get this tournament bigger for the future majors. This was our biggest, tied our biggest ever at 2,500, which means more prizes. When you talk about Chucky T79 in a minute, you'll tell him why there was big, that's part of the reason. 2,500 people, he won 1,500 for first, I believe, was the payouts this week, right? Yeah, 1,500. So this week, 1,000 people, 500 to first, $50 to 10th, 17% paid, give or take, and the reduced rake, like always. So it's the best tournament outside of Mayo's. Go join it. We'll post it out. It's on my X at Toe Tag and Tambo. You can check me out on there, x.com. Go find me. But anything else, Kenny? And if not, talk about the winner, Chucky T79.
Chucky T79 had Hatton, who finished in 20th place, 18% owned. He had Fleet Jesus, 16% owned. He finished in 10th. Cam Young, it looks like the Open Championship guy you have to play every year. 3.5% owned. Of course, he finished on he finished 8th. And he was incredible, tee to green. He was the best golfer, tee to green. It was spectacular, but he lost 5 strokes putting. If you could just get that down, that would be great. Tom Kim, of course, he finished runner up. He was 10% owned. Brian Harmon, the winner, 10% owned. And Jordan Smith, who finished in 41st, 16% on. What'd you think of the lineup, Tambo?
Yeah, I like the build. I do. Congrats to Chucky T79. The 3 9K guys were not the most common ones. Obviously, Hatton and Fleetwood were popular, but then mixing in a guy like Cam Young at 3% completely sets you apart from the field. The other thing was, talked a lot about this last week over at shipitnation.com about roster construction in general, and then with Mayo on the Wednesday show here on the Mayo Media Network, was a lot of builds were landing in that 7K range where people were getting at least 3, if not 4, 7K guys in some cases, whether it was with Rory, whether it was with Scheffler, whatever it might be. 2 9K guys, a couple 8 or 2 9K guys, 1 8K, and then multiple 7s. That was where you were landing. In this case, he went down to Jordan Smith, up to Tom Kim, and only landed on 1 7K guy. Good news for Chucky T79. It happened to be the best guy in the field to land on, the winner in Brian Harmon. But overall, good build from that perspective. And then overall ownership was low, mixing it up with a 17, 16, 16, couple guys right around 10%, and then your 3%er to get that leverage at the bottom. Overall, just a really good lineup. So Chucky T79 is into the Tournament of Champions, which we'll have news on soon. And then also the 3-man with us this week, Kenny.
Nice. So that Brian Harmon, having Brian Harmon, of course, helped. And I'm so bitter about this past week. So if you use my cash game cornerstones, I had a couple guys in the top 10. All 4 made the cut. My other 2 cash plays did not, so I did not cash. Hopefully you guys did, but I did not in my double ups. The problem is, like, the initial build I had my 4 cash game cornerstones, and then I had Harmon and Usti. Would have went 6 for 6. Would have easily cashed. Would have cashed in GPPs. Right, and so of course I was like, I think I need more upside, so I went Justin Rose instead of Harmon, and I dropped down from Usti to Stenson. 5 out of 6. I still would have made it. But of course, I was like, I'm not so sure about Stenson. He hasn't played too many majors here recently. He's missed a couple of cuts at the Open Championship. Yes, he's been playing well at Live. Let me go with a guy who plays over here all the time and has a couple of top 12s at links courses going in. I played Ewan Ferguson in cash as a punt. And of course, Rose misses the cut. I don't know what the fuck he was doing. And Ferguson misses the cut. So instead of having 6 for 6 with my initial build, which I shouldn't have fucking touched, of course, I go 4 for 6 and don't win a goddamn thing. So that was my week. It sucked. How did you do last week?
Moral of the story is don't tinker, because going to those guys, you just had no need. Like, the original build you have is awesome. That you mentioned Harmon and
Usti.
Like, rounded out.
Harmon and Usti. It was Rory, Fleetwood, Connors,
yeah,
and McIntyre, and then finished with Harmon and Usti. Would have went 6 for 6. Would have cashed. Yeah,
really, interesting. Just the way it goes. I get how it works. I know what you're doing. You're testing your theories and going through them. I do the same and single entry and all that. My main slate, not good. Showdown, really good. Saturday was a nice day. Got 30, almost. It was up there in the main for a while. Ended up getting a another mega ticket so I can make up for it. My 2 mega entries did not cash. So that was a shitty part of last week.
That
You
sucks.
get those tickets, you get them in, you want to at least cash.
When's the next mega? BMW?
I forget if it's BMW, but it's in August. Yeah, they are going to run something for one of these tournaments. I'm hoping it's the, what's the BMW 70, right?
Yeah, 70, yeah.
Should be for that one. So yeah, I'm hoping that's the case. I got to go look at it after, but I was still happy to get that. It's just a makeup. Maybe I could run it up next time and win the millie to round out the year. But either way, fun week overall. Like I said, always love the majors. In the end, Harman ran away with it. Magical performance, but we're on to the 3M Open, Kenny, and I will be there Saturday, Sunday this week. I'll be on the 18th hole in a booth, in a box with DraftKings. So I'm definitely excited for that.
Nice. One of these days, you got to tell your hookup at DraftKings to hook me up too. Make it a 2-man trip. Let me go over there and go with you. We will party down. You know how I roll.
We know where we're partying next, though. Maybe not the first one, but definitely we're going to be at President's Cup.
All right, Montreal, I'm going to be in there. I'm already looking up strip clubs.
Yeah.
Already looking up strip clubs in Montreal. We are going to have a blast. All right, let's get to this week. The PGA Tour heads to Minnesota for the 3M Open from TPC Twin Cities. The first 2 years the event was held here, it was pretty much a birdie fest. As the golfers that finished top 10 averaged around 23 birdies a week. The last 2 years, a little bit more difficult because of windy, firm conditions. It looks like it's going to play somewhere in between, maybe even be closer to the last 2 years. Because it looks like the course is going to get baked out with 100-degree weather all week. I mean, we're recording this on Monday at 5 o'clock. It's raining right now, I think, over there. But they don't see any other rain until Saturday. And it's like 100 degrees tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I would expect the course to be baked the fuck out. And they'll probably water it, which I would suspect, but we'll see. The winds don't look crazy, but you're looking at like 15-mile-per-hour gusts Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, which is like not non-existent. It's going to play a little factor here at this course. Sunday looks like it's going to be a little bit more. I think it's 17 to 20. And again, I'm doing this weather report on Monday, so everything can change. Make sure you check back Wednesday. Look back at the weather on Wednesday to make sure you double check. Now, this course has also been used on the senior tour in the past, and the old guys like literally crush this course every year. Average winning score of -21. Now, the PGA, of course, they adjusted the course a little bit for the big boys, adding about 300 yards of length, 100 mature trees. They cut down the fairway width. When the seniors played here, the width average was like over 40 yards. So, the fairways are still going to be above average and even with the trim down. It's not surprising, of course, played easy. As the PGA, the first couple of years, as the PGA Tour usually likes an easy setup when adding a new course into the rotation. Hollis Kavner, he's a 3M Open executive. He agreed with the PGA Tour on this one. In an interview in the first year, he said, he said, we don't want the hardest course on tour. We want birdies and train wrecks. Bogeys are no fun. Train wrecks are possible with 27 water hazards on the course, but the leaders the first couple of years were able to avoid this as there weren't too many scores worse than bogey by those that finished in the top 10. Now, again, because of the wind, there were a few more train wrecks the last couple of years. You could see by the winning scores, I think it was -15 a couple of years ago, -17 last year. And last year, there was less than 10 golfers that finished double-digit under par. Like I said, with the current weather conditions, on Monday afternoon, I still expect the winning score to be mid-teens. I think we could see as the winning score. Now the course. Let's get to the main course. The Arnold Palmer designed TPC Twin Cities is a 7,450-yard par 71, 4 par 3s, 3 par 5s. The length of the course is a bit deceiving since the course is played about 1,000 feet above sea level. All shots will go just a little bit farther than normal, which will cut down the actual length of the course. Also, there are many tee boxes in different yardage locations, so the PGA has free reign on how long or how short they want the courses to play each round. The par 5s are on the longer side, but golfers with above average length could reach in 2 due to the altitude giving the ball a little bit more juice. The par 3s will be some of the most difficult holes on the course. All but the par 3 fourth hole will play over 200 yards. The par 4s vary in length with 2 under 400 yards, 4 between 400 and 450, and 5 between 450 and 505 yards. Scoring will need to come on these par 4s for golfers to be in contention. Of the golfers in the top 10, the first 2 years, the majority shot -7 or better on the par fours. Now, the last 2 years, the par four scoring wasn't as good overall in the top 10, but it was still strong compared to the field. Now, off the tee, golfers will see tree-lined fairways that are above average in width with fairway bunkers in the landing zones and water in play on many, many tee shots and approach shots. Strokes gained off the tee looks like it was a fairly important stat in 2019 as 8 of the 12 golfers in the top 10 gained at least 2.2 strokes off the tee, and Bryson and Wolf, of course, a couple of the longest guys out there, finished top 2. Then 3 years ago, Thompson and Long finished top 2. Both weren't anywhere near the top of the field in strokes gained off the tee, but relied really heavily on their putter. The last 2 years, once again, we saw strong off the tee numbers for the leaders. I think approach game, especially from 175 to 200 and 200 plus, birdie making prowess, strokes gained off the tee, and good drive percentage are some stats that I think we should key on this week. The trees aren't bunched up like we see on most East Coast parkland courses, and there is a lot of room between the edge of the fairway and the tree line. Golfers who miss the fairway will most likely have to deal with 2.5 to 3 inch rough, though if they miss wildly, they're going to have to deal with trees and water. On approaches, golfers will see greens that are above average in size. The greens are fairly flat, surrounded by rough, bunkers, and water, with most having a runoff area only in the front of the greens. The grass on the greens is pure bent grass, stimp meter rating 12, 12.5. Tambo, what are you looking for in the golfers this week?
Looking at a lot of what you talked about there, I think, I'll get the stats up just going through them. You talked about good drives, talk about, again, one of the things at this place, but forget stats for 2 seconds, the possibility of the high variance that we're going to have here with the water. You talked about it, if it bakes out a little bit. Like last year, I think it was only one guy. I think it was Finau was the only guy, all 4 under 70. There's definitely the blow up holes you talked about, the train wrecks, that sort of stuff. And then the overall fact that, usually in the first couple of years, there was a lot of birdies. Last couple of years hasn't been as many. It was what we talked about pre-show, just going back and breaking it down a little bit as we were on here live recording. So really going to come down to strategy. Want to see where the ownership goes. It is pretty interesting because we do have sort of that setup where a bunch of names at the top that we could make a case for. The middle range, though, is where you're taking your stabs on guys that you want to go back to a Hadwin, a Glover, a Poston, guys like that. And then at the bottom, the 6K range is back to normal and everything like we had before last week. And by the way, too, 7K range, Kenny, back up to almost 50 guys versus last week, remember, was only 30 guys total with the change in pricing. So this week, nobody under 6K, nobody over 10.9K. That's going to shake some things up, but we can get into these tiers. We've got Cam Young down to Matsuyama. What are you doing up top with the Matsuyama? You said really impressed you last week, and then you got Finau, last year's winner, and Cam Young, who you also said top in the field last week, right? On approach, I think tee to green in general, off the tee, just absolutely crushed it. So what are you doing in this upper range?
Hideki's going to be my first cash game cornerstone. He has a top 10 here in the past. He did withdraw here last year, but I'm not worried about that. Again, his 13th place at the Open Championship really, really impressed me. He is not a good links player. He has a horrible Open track record. And to finish top 15 at that event with that field, I thought was really solid. That was enough to make me go ahead. And his price is very affordable. At $10,000, you're not breaking the bank to go with him. You can have 3 guys above 9K and still be able to make a pretty decent cash lineup, which is what I did. What I'm going to do with this in these non-designated events, I have been having a little bit more success compared to these elevated events, because what I've been doing is I've been going, top heavy with a punt. That is what I'm doing. I'm going with 3 studs up top who I think can win, and 1 punt play as my cash game cornerstones, and then fill it out with a couple of guys in the 7K range. That's how I'm going about cash this week. And Hideki, he fits everything that I am looking for. Number 2 in my model. Good drive percentage. If you guys are unfamiliar with good drive percentage, we don't talk about it that often on the show. It is driving accuracy mixed with greens and regulation when you miss the fairway. Very good stat for a week like this where there's so much trouble off the tee when it comes to water. And Hideki, of course, top 10 in this field, 8th in good drive percentage. I do like him. Also, first in strokes gained par 4 scoring. I did talk about how important par 4 scoring is at this event the first 4 years. He is the best in this field. Also very, very good, of course, with his longer irons. You do see a lot of long irons here, because of the 3 par 3s, because of the longer par 4s, and because of the long par 3s. You're going to see 6 to 7, shots from 175 plus, maybe even more, if they decide to, really go for it on the par 3s. So I like Hideki. He's going to be my first cash game cornerstone. I really like Sungjae Im. Like I said, same type of narrative that I have for Hideki. Again, the guy who has lost a half stroke to the field every single round he has played in links. So he's averaging negative half stroke to the field per round on links courses. And to go out there and finish top 20, it shows me a little something. I have Tom going out there and finishing runner-up, maybe gives him a little motivation. That's sort of a meh narrative. But I do like Sungjae a lot this week. Those are the 2 guys I know I'm playing. Outside of that, I'm thinking about Cam Young, but if we're seeing like 23-25% Cam Young, I think it's a pretty easy fade for me, and hopefully he just hits it in the water 17 times when he does that. But that would be my hope. What do you think, Tambo?
Yeah, definitely possible. Yeah, the interesting part, like Hideki definitely stands out on paper. You talk about all the stats across the board. You pull anything, just go what he's been doing lately. Top 5 in almost everything out there that we were looking at from your stats perspective. Like I said, even number 1 in those par 4s. Really impressive week last week. It looks like the injuries could be behind him, hopefully. Obviously, the game is better when Hideki is healthy, so would love that. I like the Sungjae factor too. The thing I worry about is with where the narratives go this week with those 2 up top, Kenny. Like Cam Young, it's all the stats off last week. I think people didn't want to bet Cam Young at 14-1 this morning when they woke up, so they would rather play him in DraftKings. He's 10-9. He's easy to fit. There's so many punts you can fit him with. I'll talk about the alter ego of this later on. I mention this all the time. People say, do you ever bet a guy and then not play him in DFS or vice versa? I don't think people loved waking up this morning and betting Cam Young. I think they'll love to still play him at 10-9. And the reason is the stats make sense. From last week, he's got his game back a little bit. People are going to look at it from that perspective. Now he's in a much weaker field. This is a time to go out and get your first PGA Tour win. By the way, shout out to the Batman, I like to call him. Akshay Bhatia got the job done last night in a playoff over Patrick Rogers. We forgot to mention that earlier, but talking about another guy to go and get his first win, Cameron Young should be fired up for that this week. Sahith, another guy down there. Lots of guys, but a couple that come to mind are at least those 2. Finau coming off a miscut, but the win here last year, the fact he plays so well in these weaker fields as a whole, all of that, again, it feels like, at least to me, my guy Sungjae is going to go overlooked. I know he's overpriced. I don't mind that. Again, people will perceive it as overpriced because you're paying up at 10-3. But in this field, I mean, this might be what Sungjae needs. He needs to get into a field now after a great showing last week in a tough field at a hard course. Maybe now he hops in and gets after it in a field that he can beat, a weaker field, and an easier course. So I got no problem with Sungjae. I like your Decky call, and then we'll see what people do with those guys up top. But this week, I'm definitely willing to embrace the variance, Kenny, because in the end, anything can happen with this much water out there, the hazards, if it's baked out, anything like that. And it's also the week after a major, Kenny. So I think that's another thing we got to remember, where people can just get lazy and just click whatever's easiest. What did the stats say last week? Bring it across and go with it. I think that leaves a lot of guys open where you can get some really talented golfers at some fair or low ownership.
Sounds good. Let's get to the 9K range. And the big question, of course, in the 9K range, what do you do with Justin Thomas? Tambo, what are you doing? You playing him or not?
Haven't decided, but 9,300 is pretty fair, to be honest.
Yeah.
He has to. This was another thing we didn't talk about with the Harmon, the Ryder Cup factor. He played his way in now. He's, as of now, again, he has to get through the whole playoffs and hang on up there. But there's a guy that, like this guy who you're talking about, Justin Thomas, man, he's making it really tough right now on Zach Johnson. He has got to do something down the stretch, but he looks completely lost. Like last week.
Well, here's the thing. It's not even just the Ryder Cup. He's 76 in the FedEx Cup.
Yeah, that's part of it too. Obviously, why he's here. I mean, he, by the way, hopped into the field. I mean, you know this. I'm sure most do, but he hopped into the field last minute because of the situation. So now he's got to grind through it and play through it. So will he? I don't know. There's a lot of other guys in this range, but it is interesting depending on what the ownership ends up at. Because don't you think people are going to play Straka again, Grillo again, Aberg again? Like Woodland is getting love. I get it. Like it makes sense.
Woodland's getting love. That sucked because he was my sneaky play in the 9K. I do love some Gary this week.
They can't all be owned, but I'm just saying when you look at it from, when he played here 2 years ago, 11. Well, last week didn't do anything crazy, but I know people were betting him at 33. So sometimes that does translate over at least a little bit. It'll be spread out here, though. I think there's one guy that I'll talk about in a minute that most won't go to here. But what else are you doing in this 9K range?
So just talking about Justin Thomas real quick. I mean, he did shoot that 84, 83 or whatever he did on the first day, but he shot even par in the second round, which it was like almost he gained 2 strokes on the field total.
And there was a 9 in that 84. He had to one up his boy Ricky Fowler after Ricky posted the snowman on 18. Justin Thomas said, "Let me do one better, Ricky. Let me give you a 9 real quick."
I thought it was an 11. Was it a 9? Okay,
maybe it was worse. I thought it was a
9. Yeah, it was pretty bad. So I think I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. We'll see. His ownership's going to be really interesting. I have no idea what people think about what he's going to do. I can't wait to see the ownership projections on Wednesday night. But my second cash game cornerstone, I'm going with the youngster. We've seen younger guys come out here play well. I mean, DeChambeau was sort of known by 2019, but Wolf was in there. You saw him come in, win this event, not win, but come in second at this event. And I think I like Aberg's game off the tee. Because he's long-ish and he's fairly accurate. I really like that about him. And he's what is he? Above average with his approaches. But I mean, if he can get it 315, 320 off the tee and hit fairways like he did a few weeks ago, like I think he has a really good chance. He's only missed 1 cut while he's been on tour. I think the future is bright for this kid. I got no problem using him on an easier course, easy-ish course. We'll see how it actually plays out. But of course, where you can get 20 birdies, 22 birdies in a 4-day round. So I do like Aberg. I thought that, again, one of the strongest people off the tee, scores a lot of DraftKings points, above average putter. So he's going to be my second cash game cornerstone. I got to go back to Giuseppe and GPPs. The guy is playing exceptional golf. He's actually ranked number 1 in my model, which I've never seen Sepp Soccer be number 1 in a model before, but he is. His iron game has been strong. Tons of birdies, lots of DraftKings points, really good on par 4s, 4th in good drive percentage in this field. Really love him. And again, like I said, I like Woodland this week. Again, another guy who can hit it long with a really good drive percentage. If you just wanted to make a stat model with strokes gain approach, strokes gain off the tee, good drive percentage, and birdie or better, you could just do that. That would be good enough. Me, I like to make these mutant, crazy, insane type models with like different stats from like different periods of time. It's some crazy shit. That's the way I like to do mine. But a nice, simple model, you can do it with that. And Woodland, long, good drive percentage, solid iron game, excellent off the tee. Of course, he's great. One of probably the best in this field with long irons from 175 and above. I really do like Gary Woodland. I didn't like his number. I might change my bet. I might cash out. I had Glover 35-1, which is a horrible number, but he's playing so well that I might switch that to Woodland. Let's see if they let me cash out. But those are the guys I like in the 9K range. Who do you like?
Yeah, I was just going to say the other guy I was going to add, it's like you just said, that line is what I was talking about earlier, where with Steven Jaeger, I woke up and I saw he was like 35-1. I'm not sure why. The guy also doesn't win, so why would he have the same odds as guys that win, like you talked about with Woodland, a major champion, all these other factors, regardless of the timeline and when it was. But for me, with Jaeger at 9,100, I mean, maybe people play him. I don't know. But when you see the 9th at the John Deere, the 13th at the Rocket Mortgage, but then you see $9,100, a lot of people probably frown at that price point. I would have to guess when you've got JT, Gary Woodland, Aberg, Straka, Grillo, all those guys. And then when you get down in that upper 8K range, people are talking about Hadwin, Digala, Keith Mitchell, all these other dudes. So not the best showing at the CUDA from my guy Jaeger. I think it was like 30th or 34th or something like that. But in general, a guy I always like to play, and I think his game could set up well for. He's been really good on approach, and the stats look pretty solid as well. Top 15, top 20, top 10 in a lot of the stats. We're looking at 11th par 4, 10th in birdies, top 20 in approach, and some of the proximity ranges and stuff like that. So I just think in general, Jaeger could be a guy here at 9,100. And if people are
That's
playing,
just your dude. You love some Jaeger. I'm going to get you a Jaeger machine.
If it was that,
pump the Jaeger during the show.
But that would be that we should get that sponsor, by the way. But that would be when I was talking about Sung J M, because Sung J M outside of last week, there's not a lot really to go off. I mean, second year last year, I guess people could go off of that maybe, but he's also 10-3. What I'm saying is I don't want to bet Jagger at 35 or 40 to 1 to win this tournament. So I'll have to get my exposure in playing him at 9,100. And I'm hoping that because he's outside of the Best Buy pricing, he's a $910 TV, not an $899 TV on the shelf. People are like, I'll just get that one for $899 over there. That's what I'm hoping happens. And in that case, at 9,100, I actually like Jagger. So he's a guy, for me, Straka still looks really good. And then Aberg, like you said, if he hits fairways like he has been doing, how is he not just in the mix? And these guys are just playing so good right now. Guys like him, ADDC, again, another top 7 or whatever it was on the Korn Ferry Tour. The guys at the Barracuda that we saw up there that were in the mix, like the Gerards, Batia going to get in the win. Like all these young guys these days, man, they're just ready to go and good to play. So I don't mind your Aberg call either, even if he does get steamed a little bit.
Also, Straka is another cash game cornerstone. So those are my 3 cash game cornerstones up here: Straka, Aberg, and Decky. I'll go on to the 8K range, Tambo.
Yeah, also JT just committed to the Wyndham as well. So he's already locking down for next week also. So he's really hoping to put something up. I just saw the tweet that he...
I mean, how embarrassing would it be if he doesn't get into elevated events next year?
Yeah.
You got to make it to you got to make the top 70, right, to play in the elevated events or something. Something like that. I don't even know.
It's like the top 50 for the guarantee.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And because that's what Mark Hubbard's brother, Nathan, keeps saying, how it's like, oh, if my brother's in the top 50 to 70, but he might not still get in, and he's really in a bad spot. It's like, well, I mean, he creates his own destiny, first of all. Second of all, he's got lots of opportunities. So he's still going to get a lot of tournaments that he's going to get to play in. And he's in this range. So we can talk about him. I actually like Mark Hubbard. Talking about him right now at 8,300. Glover should be popular at 8,200. Norman just won. He got the job done last week, Vincent Norman. And now this past week, he was at the Barracuda and he was in the mix. I don't know where he actually ended up finishing, 25th. But the win the week before was pretty incredible stuff down the stretch. So Hostler made some really good shots this week. And the Cuda, I was watching that after. That was the nice thing about yesterday. Once the Open ended, you could watch a great little finish here with this tournament. But Spawn, Thigala, Hadwin, I think are all going to be, interesting plays up there. Rogers feels like a lot of heartbreak after he got the old Paul Casey on the last hole right into the divot and then couldn't do anything with it like Paul Casey at the Players. Hate that rule, but it is what it is. So probably Thigala, maybe Spawn. I like Poston, Hubbard, and then I think everybody likes Glover. So 4 or 5 guys for me in this range. Kenny, what are you doing with this 8K range?
Yeah, when we get to the 8K range, that's sort of like Hadwin. Sort of a sneaky guy. Again, good drive percentage is solid. Really good on par 4s. Doesn't make too many big mistakes. Had a runner-up less than a month ago. So I do like Adam Hadwin. I like Killer Keith. Again, another one of those guys who can hit it long with good drive percentage. Looking at that with his couple of missed cuts in a row, I'm not going to look too far into that. I guess one of them was the Scottish links course, and then the other one was he had to fly back from Scotland to Reno to play last week in the Barracuda and missed the cut as the favorite. I think he'll be very low owned. I like him as that low owned play down here. Maybe a good pivot off Lucas Glover, who is going to be popular. I mean, the guy has 3 straight top 6s. There's no doubt that he'll be a popular play. JT Poston's been playing very well. Also, this 8K range is not like dirty guys, like shitty guys. I mean, JT's got a chance. He's won a couple of times on tour. I like it. He's been playing very, very well here recently. So I do like him. What about the 7K range? Let's move on. I know Aaron Rye is going to be the popular play. Yeah. I can see that. I like Nikolai Hogard. Really good finish. Pretty solid at the Open Championship this past week. I don't think many people are going to play him. I think him and Pendrith would make good pivots off of a popular Aaron Rye. I like Cameron Champ. He's played he's a couple of good finishes in a row his last couple of times out. He's played well here before in the past. If he can hit that driver straight, I mean, look out. He's going to have wedge or short iron into a lot of these greens, give him a big advantage. So I do like him. Ryan Fox impressed me last week, going like at one point in the first day, he was like 7 over par. and he ended up making the cut and finishing +1, sort of similar to what Hatton did at the U.S. Either the U.S. Open or the PGA Championship, where he had a really, really poor first round, but just started, grinding his way back, round after round. And I like seeing golfers do that after a really poor showing. To me, it shows that they have like good mental fortitude. And so, yeah, I like Ryan Fox. Tambo, what about up top here?
Yeah, Højgaard is in the battle with Aberg, they say, at least for the last spot for the Ryder Cup. So it's something to think about there. And he's 7,900, so a much cheaper version. The one note on the 8Ks you talked about, I think the 8Ks are pretty similar to the 9Ks, surprisingly, even though some of the names in the 9Ks will stand out more when you got the JTs of the world and all that. But there's guys in the 8Ks that have been playing much better than JT on all facets of the game. Like when you look at it from the perspective of who do we mention there, like JT Poston, who you just talked about, who's coming off like a 6th, 6th, 11th, and 54th or something. Like these are all guys that you could still play. And it's not saying they're going to be as good as them this week, but just to say, if you want to build that way, I would have no problem with it. I like Højgaard. I think Eric Cole, who I never play, so this will probably be bad for me, but stats wise look just incredible across the board. He's still there at just 7,800. Bhatia, this fits for me because again, it feels like he's young. You would always joke about how this guy's go out and party right away. I don't know, man. Like he seems pretty grounded, got his girlfriend. He said they don't drink. He said, we don't drink, but we might have a little something tonight to celebrate. Like it's not like this guy's going out and just getting completely shit-faced. He's proven already what he can do. Obviously, you know his story. And if he was priced, like if he was priced in last week, this would actually be a pretty good price. So 7,700, I actually don't mind it. And then you mentioned Fox, so I think it's at least a little bit interesting. Hoagie and Suh, you know what you're getting, boom bust. You could take your shots on those guys, but not much else for me in this upper 7K range. I think I and many others will like this next range of like Eckroat, Doug Gim, Lee Hodges, all these guys that you can find good upside with. TPC Lee. Who are some of the guys 7,500 down to 7K that you like?
Yeah, I mean, Ches Reavie interests me. Cates Lee interests me, but I really like Doug Gim. He had that really nice run of play. The last couple of months, he's played well here in the past, so I can get behind him. I like the fact that he doesn't make too many big mistakes, especially off the T10th in good drive percentage, top 10 in bogey avoidance in this field. I do like that about him. So I like Doug Gim. I'm playing all the Koreans. Like TPC Lee, I'm going to go back to him this week. It's just this one's more just of a feeling. When it comes to his stats, he hasn't looked good, but the guy is a 2-time winner on tour, and he's 7,300 in this field. And the events, the 2 events he won, of course, is in the same place. Low scoring type deal that you're going to get. We'll see how low scoring, but I mean, this is not like a super grind like we've seen at majors or some of these elevated events. I mean, people are still going to be able to get their birdies out there. It's just how many doubles they're also going to get because of all this water. So I do like it. Grayson Sig, another guy. I like the Sig. Always been a fan of his. He's right now in my cash lineup. Again, another guy who's been playing pretty damn good golf here in the last 6 weeks or so. I do like him. Who do you like in this range, Tama?
A few others. Peter Quest. We've been playing him a little bit. He didn't have the best week last week, but before that, he's got a 4th and a 17th. So I think, again, another boom bust guy. Lee Hodges, who I talked about, definitely like him. Sam Stevens is there. I bet Reavie, so you can play him. 7,300 is a fine price. I'm more worried, more an insurance bet for me. I'll talk it when we get to the betting segment, but just been betting him. This would be the spot that you come out and do it, and it would just kill me not to have it. So I had to take him at least one more week. Ryan Palmer had some stuff pop for me when I looked. Again, coming off 2 missed cuts, but before that, a couple 33rds, got a 31st tier last year. Don't mind him. Grayson Sig, who you brought up. Kevin Yu makes birdies, can play a guy like him. Matthew Neesmith. I don't know if I can keep going to him, but 28th and 35th. 28th last week is not the worst, so maybe he's found something there. Davis Thompson showed up for me a little bit, so I don't mind him. And then your guy you always talk about, MJ Daffy, or MJ Dafu. 24th, 35th, 16th, 34th. Made the cut here the one time he played it. At 7,100, you could do worse. So I don't know of too much else. I guess Dylan Wu at 7,000 even could be another guy you go to there. But there's a lot of guys down here, and they can't all have some type of crazy ownership. So I think this is where you get different this week, Kenny.
Sounds good. We get to the 6K range. The two Koreans up top I'm playing. S.H. Kim. Again, this is more of a field play, but he's definitely good on longer par fours. You're going to get 5 or 6 of those, well above average from 175 to 200. And he's sort of sneaky long. I didn't realize how long he was, but also well above average in par 4 scoring. Michael Kim, again, another guy up there who's, again, sneakily long, well above average in driving distance, but top 20 in driving, in good driving percentage. Good drive percentage. So I do like him. Again, another guy who plays well on par 4s, and avoids the bogeys. Top 5 in bogey avoidance. I really like Michael Kim this week. Other guys in this 6K range, Kazires made the cut here all 4 years. He's someone that you might be able to look at when it comes to just course history. If you're a course history guy, my final cash game cornerstone is a course history guy, straight up course history. It's going to be Bryce Garnett at $6,500. He's made 65% of his cuts this season, and he's made all 4 cuts at this event, never finishing worse than 31st. I'll take that for my punt play. So my cash game cornerstones for this week are going to be Sungjae at, Hideki at 10,000. Sepp Straka at 9,500, Aberg at 9,400, and of course, Bryce Garnett at 6,500. That leaves you 14,500. You might possibly be able to put in, light the Sig and Reavie and make it all 6 if you like. That's how it is. We'll see if I end up that way. But that could be somewhere where you want to go. Other guys, if we're going down to Ryan Armour, another guy, good drive percentage, very, very strong, one of the best in the field, $6,500. I think he's played here before, and I think he's done okay. I can't remember off the top of my head. Who do you like in the 6K range?
I think for me, it's just going to be a bunch of guys. If you're going down here that are, played last week at the CUDA, coming in with a little bit of form, like Joel Damon is right there at 6,800. Who's some of the other guys here? Ryan Gerard, 5th last week. James Hahn, 6th. Last week. These are just additions to stuff. James Hahn actually came 4th here last year, got 6th last week. He was right in the mix, playing a little bit better. He's 6,800. And then the flow chart is back. $6,900. Troy Merritt. Is he cheap? Yes. 69. Is he playing? Yes. Is he cheap? Yes. Is there a lot of birdies to be had? Maybe not a birdie fest to your point.
Can he make a cut? How many missed cuts has he had? It has to be an amazing amount.
He's fine. He's actually, what's funny, everyone's going to say that. Hopefully they do, because go back and look. He's basically Steven Yeager for $6,900. He finished 17th and 17th at those 2 events, the Rocket Mortgage and the John Deere, where I said 9th and 13th were good for him earlier. Steven Yeager, 34th last week. Troy Merritt, 50th. It's not good, but just saying he's same as him. And at this event, 7th, 39th, and 49th. 3 of the 4 made cuts, including the 2 last years. 6,900. All he has to do is find a putter. It's been the thing. I know the yips that people talked about. Scottish was tough, but 17th, 17th, and 50th, the 3 of the last 4. I don't hate it. Again, I'll just continue to play my guys. Trevor Cohn, people are talking about. I like Lipsky. He's the guy I always play. He had a pretty good week last week too. I think he finished 34th, same as Steven Yeager up top there. Carl Yuan, he can make birdies. We've seen that plenty of times already. So I think Tyler Duncan, another guy I always play. Robbie Shelton.
I'll do like T Dunks this week. I'm a fan.
What's he been up to? He's my guy I always play, but 47, 61st. Like, he doesn't even have as good a stats and numbers as Troy Merritt. But I always play Tyler Duncan. Maybe he's a better first round leader bet, but just to say it. And then what's Kevin Tway been up to? Not much. So not as enticed there. I like your Garnett call with the course history, and just again hasn't even been the worst. If you go back and look, he's got a 33rd, a 47th, and 2 of his last 3. So just to keep that in mind, he's another guy you could go to. What did Kevin Roy get up to? He's a guy we've been talking about a little bit lately. 20th last week. Again, not going to play all these guys, but just to say it. And then where did we see Zach Blair get 2nd? He's a guy that I thought of immediately. I feel like we haven't seen him since, but maybe he's played events and I just don't recall. But
is he playing this week?
Yes. Okay. It was a 2nd at the Travelers, then some missed cuts at some of those easier events though. So it worries me a little bit from that perspective, but again, not saying you got to go.
Travelers was a designated event, so
it was. That was why it was a big deal for him. It was
that
like
probably got his ass into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's huge for him. He got the biggest paycheck he's ever made for like a career, I think, a season in like one event or something. It worked out. I forget what the numbers were, how they broke it down, but it was definitely a huge event for him. But Robbie Shelton maybe was the other guy. Might have said him already, but just going back, I was just pulling up his stuff to see real quick. Nothing crazy though for him either. So like, again, some of these guys are just popping. I'm thinking little bit different on some of these guys, but I don't think I'm going to go crazy down here with how many guys we mentioned in that low 7K range, where we know in the sevens, the ownership is basically Doug Gim, Eckroat, Aaron Rye, and then pretty dispersed and pretty light on some of those guys at the bottom. So I think you're fine without even having to go in here for the most part.
Yeah, I agree. Those three guys are probably going to be the high, and Chaz maybe could be up there. Chaz could be popular in the 7K range, but outside of those four guys, I don't think you really do have to worry about too much ownership unless somebody really gets steamed up as the week progresses. We'll have to see. Anybody else? So let's move on to bets. So my betting card, I've only made 3 so far this week. I'm going to add some long shots by the end of the week, but I picked 3 guys up top. I went Hideki 20-1, Glover 35-1, which is a horrible number, but I'm betting it anyways, and Woodland 35-1.
Yeah, I got Glover early. I missed the 66, but I got 60. All these are with 8 places. So Glover 60, Eckroat 80, Gim 90, Reeve 100, and Sig 125. So I feel like pretty good numbers on all these guys value-wise. Again, DFS looks like they'll all be pretty popular. So see how we go about things. But some of them are pretty cheap prices. You can still get away with it. Just got to get different elsewhere. But overall, feel pretty good about the 5 guys that I've got. Look to add somebody maybe later in the week.
One and done for me is Woodland.
I got Sungjae and Thigala. If you had Finau or JT, this is the time, I think. Just again, JT's only got this and the Wyndham left. Also, if he plays good this week, there's a chance he bails on his late commitment to the Wyndham, just because I know it sounds like it's bad news to do that or like bad ethics, but not really. Everyone knows what's up. He's just trying to get into the playoffs, trying to prove himself. So if he has a really good week this week, you would pick that up in one and done, and he may not be, used next week, but hopefully you could use him in the playoffs. And I guess to say it that way, but you're doubling down on that. So if you have Finau or JT, they're pretty low owned in the one and done. I would use them while you got them.
All right, well, you can find me on Twitter at KendoVT. You can find my article on gupscorner.com. Use promo code Kenny. Save yourself 30% on a membership to Gups Corner. Tambo.
Find me on X.com. I found out during the show, they're trying to change it to Zeeting, Xeet, instead of tweeting. I think that is insane because, tweet is just something people say. It's what they know. I wish it would all stay the same. It feels like
it's very, very close to another word, Zeeting, skeeting, same shit, right?
Motherfucker. Yeah, we'll see, but I'm sure there'll be lots of good jokes on X/Twitter.com. We can still call it Twitter here, though. You can find me there at Totag and Tambo. The tidbits will still be out for this week. They'll be out for the Wyndham. Might cut them off after that. We'll see. The playoffs is always smaller fields, weaker event, not weaker events, smaller fields and weaker content. Because of that, you get all with it. So maybe not for those weeks, but definitely at least these next 2 weeks, no problem. I'll be at the 3M Open for Saturday, Sunday. I already talked about I fly in Friday. I'll be there for the weekend on the 18th hole. So hit me up if you're there and I can find my way around. Still nursing the knee injury a little bit, so we'll see, but bring in the brace.
I will let you know your ass better wear some sunscreen because you look white as fuck now.
Oh yeah, for sure. Got to get my.
Well, gotta get that. You still got the bald head going? Are you still rocking? Are you still rocking this? Okay, no, I remember you used to have the shaved head.
Oh, so we got a fresh fade. We'll be getting a haircut before we go down. Don't worry. Yeah, we'll be all good though. We'll take care of ourselves. We know all about that. And then of course, ShipItNation.com. If you haven't yet done so, now's the time. Join the nation. Go to ShipItNation.com. Sign up. We've got MMA, MLB, PGA rounding out the season. Everything on the go with that. Some best ball stuff. And then, of course, NFL, NBA, NHL right around the corner. We launched our projections for PGA this week. So PGA projections and projected ownership. So it's a good time to join the nation. ShipItNation.com.
All right, that sounds good. I'm a fan of this course. I'm a fan of this tournament. So it should be fun. Let's win some motherfucking money. Degeneration.